Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to a new edition of our program Africa Today. In today's edition, we are going to shed light about the most important achievements that took place and the most important developments that happened in Africa in the year 2020, as the year is wrapping up and we are approaching 2021. Our dear viewers, will start with this report about the 50 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine, which will be received by Egypt in the coming weeks as the world faces the second wave of the pandemic. More details.
The Egyptian Ministry of Finance said it has officially signed contracts to receive 20 million doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine and 30 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine. In a press conference, the ministry said that public financing for health is regarded as a top priority as the country continues to face the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. Officials said the ministry is also preparing plans to increase stimulus packages to support in combating the second wave. On Thursday, Egypt reported 1,021 new COVID-19 infections, raising the total cases registered in the country to 128,993. Earlier in December, Egypt's Ministry of Health and Population announced that the first batch of the Chinese coronavirus vaccine had arrived at Cairo International Airport. Health officials said that medical staff working in chest and fever hospitals and isolation hospitals and patients with kidney, heart and other chronic diseases would receive priority access to the vaccine. 2 days ago, it was announced that a ban on New Year's celebrations and gatherings will be put in place across Egypt. Authorities said the rule would be enforced strictly with no exceptions due to the steadily rising number of COVID-19 cases in Egypt and in order to avoid a lockdown.
Sudan has taken control of most of the land it accuses Ethiopians of encroaching upon near the border between the two countries. The Sudanese Information Minister said on Saturday. More details with Sameh Sharif.
Tensions between Sudan and Ethiopia in the border region have flared since the outbreak of conflict in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region in early November and the arrival of more than 50,000 mainly Tigrayan refugees in eastern Sudan. Disputes have been concentrated on agricultural land in Al-Fashqa, which falls within Sudan's international boundaries but has long been settled by Ethiopian farmers. There have been armed clashes between Sudanese and Ethiopian forces in recent weeks, with both sides accusing the other of instigating the violence. The two countries held talks this week in Khartoum over the issue. Sudan's information minister said they believe in dialogue to solve any problem. He said the Sudanese army will do its duty to take back all land, adding that currently the army has taken back between 60% and 70% of Sudanese land. He said Sudanese forces had acted defensively and clashes had subsided in the past 2 days. The minister also said Sudanese intelligence reports confirmed that the organization, training and arming of the forces that attacked were not militias but regular forces. Ahead of the talks this week, Ethiopia's foreign minister Ato Demeke Mekonnen said the Sudanese military had carried out attacks beginning November 9. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed blamed parties with hidden motives to create hostility and suspicion between peoples for the violence in a statement issued on Thursday. Sudanese officials say the border was demarcated in the first years of the 20th century and that negotiations are limited to talks over placing additional markers on the land at 2 kilometers rather than 10 kilometers intervals.
Central African Republic voted on Sunday in the presidential and legislative elections, which are being held under a cloud of violence that came as the government, the international partners and the United Nations peacekeepers are seeking to hold off a rebel advance. More details.
Polling stations opened Sunday for presidential and legislative elections in the Central African Republic as the country remains torn by civil war and a new rebel offensive threatens the capital. There was a delay of around 50 minutes before some polling stations in Bangui opened, as voting materials had not been delivered on time. UN peacekeepers and local and Rwandan soldiers were patrolling the streets throughout the capital, with armored vehicles posted outside voting places, armed with machine guns. Only a small share of the population is likely to be able to vote freely, as 2/3 of the country has been under the control of armed groups for the past 8 years. The most powerful among them joined forces 9 days ago in a new rebellion, planning to march on the capital and halt the elections. For now, they have been kept at arm's length with help from Russian paramilitaries, Rwandan soldiers and blue-helmeted peacekeepers from the UN's MINUSCA mission to one of the world's poorest countries. Experts and opposition figures in Central African Republic have already asked what legitimacy the president and 140 MPs to be elected will have, given the obstacles to a large proportion of people outside Bangui voting freely. Senior officials at the election organizing authorities said that where polling stations had opened late, voting would continue for an additional 50 minutes, including at the Baganda Secondary School in eastern Bangui, where a few dozen people were waiting for the doors to open.
And now with our wrap-up for the year 2020, to shed more light on that, we are very much delighted to have with us over the phone Mr. Raouf Ghaffar, our political and economic expert. Mr. Ghaffar, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, my dear.
Mr. Ghaffar, what are the most important events that took place in 2020 in the African continent?
First of all, regardless of Egypt being on top of the African, we know that, of course, we were the president in 2019. Yes. This year we are not, but Egypt continued to give whatever assistance and help any African country needs. So I just like to emphasize on the fact that we are not relating our relations with Africa with our presidency to the Union, first of all. But in my opinion, I think the most important event is the interaction and the help that Egypt extended to its brothers and sisters in Africa regarding COVID-19 pandemic. So yes. We have seen that Egypt has provided a lot of African countries with medical supplies and medical assistance to try and fight this unfortunate pandemic. So, in my opinion, this is one event that took place, and I see it as something extremely important.
Indeed.
The other thing on the inter-country level, yes. We have seen conferences regarding the rapprochement of the different countries.
Yes.
As far as projects, highways linking different countries, the linking of electricity and power between some African states, the free zones and free passage of goods between the different states. This again has developed positively in the African continent.
Yes,
on the third level, this again is important. Egypt is always lifting the banner of security and safety everywhere. So we have helped in bringing a lot of factions together, reaching peace settlements and peace agreements, particularly in Sudan and South Sudan. On the fourth level, the efforts that have been exerted by Egypt towards the establishment of peace and security
yes.
In Libya, and we know the position of yes. our president as far as this crisis is concerned, and how it affected positively in the development that we hope will continue. So
Indeed.
This, in my opinion, were the most shining events that happened in our continent during 2020.
Yes, indeed. Sir, in shedding more light on one of the points that you have just mentioned, which is the situation in Sudan, how do you see the success of the political steps taken in Sudan so far?
First of all, needless to say that the national security of Sudan is the extension of the national security of Egypt.
Indeed.
And we always love to have a peaceful neighbor. We love to have a secured neighbor.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what we have done with Sudan in the north as well. And considering the south of Sudan is an extension to Sudan and hence an extension to Egypt, we have managed to bring factions together and we have again succeeded in bringing most of the tribes and divisions of south of Sudan together. Yes. And we reached a settlement, a peace agreement that will probably govern for the future and will present to South of Sudan the opportunity to develop positively. We have again, particularly after the last visit of our president to South Sudan, presented our will to help them economically, financially, and even militarily, any way they want, just again to ensure that peace and security will govern there.
Indeed, Mr. Ghaffar, how do you see the prospects for the sustainability of South Sudan's peace deal?
I hope this time it will work, and we felt lately the will of the different forces to finally come to their senses and look for the interest of their country more than they look to their own interests. So I think this time it will work out, and it will stand for a long time, giving the opportunity to Sudan, south of Sudan, to develop. Particularly that south of Sudan is rich in its resources, and they have the right actually to exploit it the best way they can.
Yes. Sir, how do you weigh actually the impact of the Ethiopian-Eritrean reconciliation on the whole region?
Well, of course, Eritrean Ethiopian reconciliation is a landmark, but unfortunately, this area has seen lately some turmoils and some instability, and this is not healthy. This is not good. Particularly that, of course, the geographical position of Ethiopia is important. Ethiopia is the direct neighbor of Sudan and South Sudan, and we have noticed some, fights, etc., on the borders.
Yes.
So, we are concerned with the situation, and we hope that really the Ethiopian people, the Ethiopian government, finds a way to, first of all, establish security and stability within the Ethiopian territories, and establish a more friendly relations with the neighboring countries.
Yes.
Particularly that, of course, we share the River Nile, and once again, we hope in this particular issue to reach a just and fair settlement as far as the allocation of Nile water and the Renaissance Dam filling, etc. is concerned.
Yes, indeed. Mr. Ghaffar, actually many issues are still open while actually the year is winding up, which are the Tigrayan crisis, the Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, as well as the unrest in the Central African Republic. What issues needed here to be prompted with an action as soon as possible from your point of view?
Two points I like to raise. First of all, that this, I refer again to the COVID-19. It has not slowed down, but in some areas it has stopped a lot of efforts and a lot of, development and what have you.
Yes.
So this has been a very negative, I should say, action. It had a very negative action on the development of the continent in general. So this was one drawback. But I like always to separate the years. I mean, 2020 is not different from 2019 or 2021 as far as the relations between the African states, as far as any ongoing peace negotiations or ongoing development on any direction. So we have pledged our entire, I should say, concentration on the welfare of the African continent.
Yes.
Egypt has not spared money and time and effort through its leadership to establish this, and we will still continue to do that as the one of the biggest countries in the continent.
Yes.
We will not fail to continue our help, assistance in any way we can, regardless of the years. So I think that we all, of course, look forward to 2021 to be 10 times better than 2020 or even more. But I'm sure that we will continue in our effort to aiming to the welfare and well-being of the Africans and their country.
Yes. Sir, actually the year 2020 brought about major events and developments to Africa and to the whole world actually. How has COVID-19 affected the African continent, and what are here your expectations for the coming stage, and how Africa is going to face these challenges?
Well, I mean, this is a very, I should say, serious challenge. Africa in its whole is not, so far, is not very rich. They have a lot of resources that are not exploited properly, so they are poor in the sense. And with the COVID-19, it hindered the efforts for development, and it stopped a lot of ongoing sustainable development projects and what have you. So this was one challenge that really reflected negatively on the African continent. We hope that things will get better, and the control of this pandemic will happen in a way that Africa would look into its own interest and will receive more and more investors, and will be able to exploit its resources in a sane and healthy environment, and overcome this unfortunate crisis. So let us hope that Africa has a lot of prospects. As I said, it is full of resources that needs to be exploited. It was a little bit slowed down due to this to the COVID-19, but hopefully we will overcome it, and things will develop positively in the very near future.
Yes, Mr. Ghaffar, and finally, how optimistic are you about Africa's economic outlook in 2021?
Repeat the questions, please. I could not hear it properly.
How optimistic are you about Africa's economic outlook in 2021?
I am by nature optimistic, and I think that the development will be more positive.
Yes.
And things will get better globally as far as Africa is concerned. And I have a feeling that things will change to the better, and we will see better Africa in the very, very near future.
Yes. And how do you describe the development of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam so far, Mr. Ghaffar?
Well, the situation of Ethiopia is a little bit blurred, a little bit ambiguous. We cannot understand. But I think from what between the lines, we can feel that more pressure should be put on them. But once again, it is my feeling deep inside that things will get better and we will reach a just agreement and settlement regarding this notorious issue.
Yes, hope so. Mr. Raouf Ghaffar, our political expert, thank you very much, sir, for your precious input. And indeed, we wish you a very happy new year, and we wish all our dear viewers a happy new year. And for all of the African continent, indeed, more development, more success, and less challenges in 2021. Thank you very much for watching. That was Mahissi Rabia. Until tomorrow with another cruise. Goodbye.